Hello, hello. Welcome to the It's Your Time show with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. Each week, we bring you transformational stories from entrepreneurs and professionals around the world who are sharing their life-changing experiences to give you proof of what's possible after adversity, as well as inspiring and motivating you to take control of your time and take action on your dreams. On this week's It's Your Time show, I'm here with the amazing Paul Wilson. He is the go-to mindset coach for ambitious business owners. He is the founder of A Happy Head. He is the host of the Happy Head podcast and also a public speaker. Paul has dedicated the last 29 years to helping people either as the emergency response manager at the Channel Tunnel and the Mindset Maestro for business owners. Paul has worked with coaches like Lisa Johnson, the creator of Passion for Passive, and owner of the massively successful GSD Facebook group to help her clients with a wide variety of mindset issues. Paul has turned his lifelong interest in the mind and human behaviour into his new career, helping people remove unwanted mental baggage and stepping out of their own way. Paul Wilson, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abigail. It's lovely to be here.
I'm so excited for the conversation that we are going to have here today. This episode, I can't speak.
This episode is being brought to you by insert name of sponsor.
This episode is for anybody who is finding themselves in their life, their business, or their career right now, just uncertain of what to do, what next steps to take. Paul's story is going to be everything that you need to hear right now. It is no coincidence that you are tuning in. So let us know where you are tuning in live. Let us know in the comments where you are joining us from, whether you are joining us live or if you are joining us on the replay, because we love to hear from you. If you have any questions, also leave them in the comments. If we have time, we will come to them. Otherwise, Paul and I will be hopping into the comments on social to answer your questions after we have finished talking today. Paul, let's start where I love to start all of these episodes. What were you like as a 4-year-old child?
I do not have a Scooby-Doo. I do not have a clue or an idea. I kind of erased my childhood. Nothing for anything traumatic or all that kind of stuff, but I was just very sickly as a kid and very unsuccessful, if that's the right kind of phrase to describe a childhood. Didn't have a lot of friends, didn't participate in sports because I was asthmatic. And so I decided a long time ago that rather than fake, so what a lot of people do is they go, oh, I didn't like that childhood, I'll place a new one on top of it. Well, I thought, no, because that's still fake. So I just decided not to go back and reflect and think about it. I was very dumpy, very fat as a very, very young kid. I've seen the photographs. But apart from that, I've just kind of like erased it deliberately.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your honesty and for sharing it, because I always think that who we are as a child can shape our future, but perhaps it doesn't. So what did success look like to you as you were growing up? Did you have any examples of success at school or at home?
Okay, I have a different definition of success. To me, success isn't about collecting things and making loads and loads of money. It's about enjoying your life. And I had a fabulous, outstanding, amazing time. From when I left school to, onwards really for the most of my life. I traveled a lot in the 80s. I hitchhiked from, summer resorts to winter ski resorts. And I've pulled it up, I've put it down, I've pushed it, I've pulled it, I've painted it, I've scraped it, I've washed it, I've cleaned it, I've lifted it, I've carried it. Every kind of manual labor role you can imagine is what I've done, because that's how I got fed. I would go somewhere and I would knock on doors and go, excuse me, do you need any jobs doing? And people either go, no, bugger off, or actually, yeah, go and tidy my garden. I'll give you breakfast. And that's how I lived for a large part of the 80s. In the winter, I'd be a beach. In the winter, I'd be a ski bum. I'd be working in restaurants or hotels or bars, that kind of thing. And in summer, I'd be doing very similar things, working for camping companies, cleaning tents, moving tents, all that kind of stuff, and meeting lots and lots of beautiful women and having lots and lots of fun, because that to me was what it. I used to look upon people who would arrive on campsites, bedraggled and arguing. There'd been a big flash car, yeah, and they've spent a fortune to book this holiday, but they'd have driven straight down. The kids would be unhappy. Husband and wife would be talking to each other. And I used to kind of swear I would never have a mortgage. I would never have kids because I don't like what I see. And for the largest part of my life, I didn't, because I just didn't like what I saw. I very, very rarely came across happy couples like you see on TV shows back in the day. So I just no, I don't want that. I want to have fun. So to me, success is all about having fun and enjoying life and having a good time.
And you were able to sort of do the physical thing, which is obviously pay the bills by trading your skill set and what you were able to do in order to do that. And I love that this was sort of how you spent that period of your time, that chapter of your life, if you like. What inspired that? Anything? What woke up in you that this is what I want to do for the next however many years you did it for?
Okay, I've always kind of been a big fan of science fiction and adventure stories and kind of boys' own stories of like going exploring and finding new things. Because if you think about it, adventure stories, when you strip away all it down to the basics, it's about self-discovery. It's about putting yourself in face of danger, in inverted commas, about pushing yourself, about can I really climb that hill? Can I swim that river? Can I fight off the deadly crocodile? All this kind of stuff. Well, most of us are never going to come across a deadly crocodile, but we do come across challenges. And how we deal with those challenges defines us as a person. And so I'd always wanted to travel, but because I was asthmatic and there's all kind of obstacles put in my way, and I found it very difficult. And then I joined the army, and I joined the army to travel because that's why I tried to get into the Navy. The Navy wouldn't have me, and they said go next door, join the army. And the other side of the army said, yeah, we'll have you, no problem. And I joined the army thinking that I would see the world and have a great time, and it didn't happen. I saw virtually every single base in the north of England, but I never set foot off the British Isles. And I thought, sod this for a game of soldiers. Literally, I'm not going to get to. So I quit. And I then, went back home for a short period of time. Thought, okay, how can I travel? And I figured out a way of doing it. And I went to France, and I spent most of the 80s in Europe, mainly in France, Switzerland, a little bit of Spain, a little bit of where else? Italy, but mainly France during that time. I've hitchhiked all the way around Europe. Some of my incredible memories in what used to be called Yugoslavia, through the Greek islands and kind of back and around and up and down. When I traveled, I never set off with a fixed destination in mind. It's like I was going to the mountains to find work, or I was going to a beach to find work. And it didn't matter where those mountains were or where the beach was, as long as I could get there. Excuse me about a little gap there. I had a cough. And that's what I did. So there's this cliche going around that it's not the destination, it's the journey. And for me, even though I didn't know that at the time, that's what it was about. It was about the journey of discovery, the journey of who I really was. I mean, I've got a little story that I tell that it's, I've broken bread with the rich, the poor, and the dying. I've been driven in limousines. I've been in cars I had to get out and push. I have stayed in sumptuous mansions, but I've also slept under motorway bridges after dining out on the leftovers from the bins. Yeah. And the one thing that gets me every single time when I think about this is the generosity of strangers. I'm standing there at the side of the road with my thumb out. It's pouring with rain. I am soaked through. I'm tall, I'm scraggly, I'm dirty, and people will stop and give me a lift and feed me and then point me in the right direction. And people talk about how strangers are bad and how foreigners are evil and all this garbage. I have never experienced that at all. Yes, I've met bad people, but bad people come in all flavors. They're not all from this country or that country. They're everywhere. Yeah. But they are the minority. And I want to stress that bad people are the minority. Amazing, generous, loving, kind people are everywhere. And hitchhiking really brings that out. I love it. I loved that time.
Wow. Wow. I love it. So what was sort of the pivot that caused you to change from doing that kind of lifestyle then?
What is always the pivot in anything? So you're laughing, Abigail, because you know the answer. It was a woman. I met someone in, God, 88, 87, I can't remember now. And it was definitely a pivotal moment because I was in a situation whereby the winter season had finished. I'd been offered the plum job in this ski resort, the best job you could possibly imagine. I had some friends that said, look, if you fancy it, we'll come and pick you up and we'll go to this Greek island that we know and get you a really cool summer job. Or I could go back to the UK and go chase this woman. And what did I do? I came back to the UK and chased this woman who then proceeded to kick me out and some kind of test. I mean, over time, we ended up getting married and having kids and getting divorced. That kind of condenses 25 years into like a few seconds. So I came back and then I kind of did the usual thing of working for Manpower, you know, one of these agencies that gives you day jobs and stuff like that. I then became an estate agent of all things, just when dual MIRAS, MIRAS for those that don't know is mortgage interest relief at source, because back in that time, husband and wife or partner A and partner B could both get tax relief on mortgage interest, which is fabulous. Then the government stopped that, interest rates went through the roof, and the property industry fell through the floor. It was a great time to become an estate agent. So I did that. I got fired because the company I was working with was a small company. They got eaten up by a bigger company, and this, I'll never forget this young lad, he's about 8'6" tall, really big, and with a suit that didn't fit. He's the regional director, calls me into the office, goes, how many houses you sold today? And I went, 4. And he threw a lot of expletives at me and said, you're effing useless, you're fired. Just like the guy does in The Apprentice, Lord Sugar does, yeah? You went, you're fired. But there's no payoff. There was no kind of like, keep the car for a week. It's, give me the car keys, off you go, bye. I went, oh, well, that's great. Thank you very much for that. Of course, that's what I said. And then I went into life insurance. I am so proud to say that I am the world's worst insurance salesperson. I was in a commission-only job and I left this organization owing them money. How cool is that? Yeah, to say I was hopeless at it. And the reason why I was hopeless at it was very simple. I didn't understand the products. I didn't believe in the product. And I just thought it wasn't a scam, but it just felt like that to me. But at the time, because I had blinkers on, I didn't see any alternative. And so that's what I stepped into, even though people told me not to. And again, we kind of we'll talk about this later on. Maybe I put this thing on. I'm not going to listen. 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 I'm just going to do this thing. And that's what I did. After, I don't know, a year and a half, something like that, I started to think that I needed to change something. During my travels, I'd learnt to speak French fluently, and it cost me a lot of time and effort, and it was something I was really proud of. It's one skill that I developed off my own back. But since leaving France and Europe back in kind of the late 87, 88, I'd not been speaking French. And I noticed that the level was falling through the floor. And then one day I was coming home from work into my local news agents, and the only newspaper they had left, because don't forget, this is pre-internet, so we got our information from either TV or newspapers, was the Observer. I don't read the Observer, so I buy this bloody great big massive newspaper. I get it home, and I'm flicking through looking for the jobs page. And with every page, I'm getting more and more disappointed because there isn't a jobs page. I think, oh God, I've just wasted 50p or whatever it was. Anyway, I get to virtually the last page, and there's a little kind of half-page section which says jobs. And I'm looking through it, and there's a circle. Top half is red, bottom half is blue, and it's got Eurotunnel in there. And it says, "Do you fancy? Can you speak French? Do you fancy a challenge?" And I went, "Yes and yes." So I rang the number the next morning, and this lovely lady says, "Can you speak French?" I went, "Yeah." She says, "Hang on a minute." And she transferred. You can hear the kind of old fashioned kind of transfer system in the telephones going along, and this creaking and cranking. And then this voice in French starts talking to me, and we have a conversation. Yeah, I know, how's the weather? What are you doing right now? That kind of thing, pretty generic. And then after about, I don't know, say 2-3 minutes, this lady in perfect British English goes, "Yes, your French level is excellent. I'll pass you back to the receptionist." So she passed back to
Wow.
receptionist. I get invited to this assessment day, and this is one of the most difficult days in my entire life. I'm there for about, I don't know, it seems like 12 hours. It's probably only 6 or 7, but it seemed like 12 hours. And there's a bunch of us in this room. There's about 30 of us. And there are guys, it's all guys, there's no women. It's all guys. There are guys that have been working the rigs in places like Algeria and North Africa and other places that are qualified engineers, have been engineers for 20, 30 years. They speak bilingual, this, trilingual, that, quadrilingual, the other. These guys that have been in the French Foreign Legion. There's people from all walks of life, but most of them really, really highly qualified. And the biggest question everybody's asking is, what's the salary? Because that's the one thing Eurotunnel at the time, we kept very, very quiet. And we're going through like assessment tests, group training tests, group interviews, individual interviews. Gets to lunchtime, and we put back in this room ready to be served lunch. And somebody goes, "I've just found out what the effing salary is." And everybody goes really quiet. "Okay, what's the salary?" 14.5 grand. And half of the room look like they've just been shot. "I wouldn't get out of bed for less than 50 grand a year." And literally 3/4 of that room walk out. They just get up and they walk out and they disappear. And there's a few of us. I mean, I
Wow.
didn't care, because it was the French and the challenge that got me. So the salary wasn't that big a deal. And then the rest of the day, more tests and more of this and more of that. I went home at the end of this day with what I can only describe as the worst hangover you could ever have without drinking alcohol. So imagine it's a Friday night, you've been on a bender, it's now
Yeah.
Saturday morning, your head is throbbing, it's aching, you take 27 aspirin and it still doesn't get rid of it. That's how I felt when I got home. And I'm thinking, you know what, Paul, you haven't got a chance.
Mm.
You're not an engineer, you don't have this, that, or the other. But I waited and I didn't hear anything, and I didn't hear anything, and I'd given up. I started looking for other jobs, so I just didn't hear anything. Then out of the blue, I got this letter saying, "You've been invited to a final interview." So I went to the final interview, and there was a guy who I'll never ever forget called Claude Hulin. He was a real lifelong cheminot. A cheminot is a railway worker, a manual worker that's worked actually on the track. A life that's been his career, and I get on really well with him and the other two that are in the room, and I'm offered the job. So I take it, and I'm there for 25 years, and yeah, loads of challenges, because I said I speak fluent French, but we had to learn all the technical French for signaling
Yeah.
and ventilation systems and drainage. That was tough, really, really hard.
Wow. Like the French for nuts and bolts.
Yeah, the French for nuts and bolts, the French for turbine, the French for a route locking. It's a
Wow.
signaling term, how to protect a train going from A to B. Enclenchement. I'd never even heard the word enclenchement before, but it's all about signaling. Unbelievable. There was some brilliant time. We spent 6 weeks in the center of Paris, where the SNCF, the French Railways, have a school where they teach you how to do signaling.
Wow.
Fabulous, because we'd be working 9 to 5 learning signaling, and then we'd be out in the center of Paris for 6 weeks. It was superb. We had a fabulous time.
So you got to do everything you wanted to do. So how come you do what you do now?
Okay, so I had what I call my Independence Day on the 23rd of October 2017. I was cycling to work and I got knocked over. And as a consequence of getting knocked over, I broke my right arm either side of my elbow. And I was signed off for 6 weeks. I'm right handed. The left hand, it doesn't do much at all. So I'm sitting there at home going, do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? Because the job I was in at the time wasn't my preferred role, but circumstances kind of steered me that way, and that's where I was. And I thought to myself, well, look, Paul, you can stay for another 5, 10, God knows how long, and be miserable and make everybody around you miserable, because you're probably not going to get another job right now, because, qualifications, that aren't my forte. I left school at 15 and a half, 16, something like that. So, no A levels, no degree. So I'm not going to get a job. So what do I do? So, well, if I go, it'll be a big leap into the dark, because I don't have a side hustle. I didn't know what a side hustle was. But so we just like jump into the unknown. Anyway, the end of 6 weeks, I'm still undecided. I've got to Scooby-Doo what I'm going to do. So I go back to work, and after a long absence, after you've been on holiday for 3 weeks, you kind of go back to the office, and there's a big pile of mail, and you're kind of fighting your way through the mail, trying to crank the computer up again. And I'm doing all of this, and the head of HR, Nick, walks past my front door, and I don't know where this comes from to this day, but he goes, "Hi, Paul, how's the arm?" I went, "Hi, Nick, it's great. Have you got a minute?" He went, yeah, come round to my office. Long story short, within about 6 to 8 weeks, on the exact date of my 25th anniversary, I'm out. Leap into the dark. Now, I was going to become a photographer, because photography is my main hobby, passion. It's the thing I do in my spare time. But very quickly, I realized that every man, woman, child, elephant, gorilla that's got one of these things, your mobile phone, calls themselves a photographer. And literally, the bottom had fallen out of the market of photography, and people would literally, it's no cliche, the pun is intended, would pay you for exposure. I would get calls from saying, "Paul, look, I want you to come do this shoot. I can't pay you, but you'll get great exposure." And I'd be really facetious. I go, "Hang on a second, I need to phone my landlord. Hi, landlord, I've been offered this gig and they're going to pay me in exposure. Can I pay next month's rent in exposure?" No, you sure? Oh, I'm really sorry, but you heard the conversation. And I'd go, "No, thank you." And so I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? And so I spent 2018 was a year of discovery for me. I did a social dynamics course. I did a 12-week stand-up comedy course in central London, took on a personal trainer, lost a lot of fat, put on some muscle. And in amongst all of this, I kind of rekindled my love for mesmerism and mind reading and mentalism and the mind and neuroscience and hypnosis and all that kind of stuff. And I got on a course, loved that course, actually helped a lady that was struggling with a phobia for snakes. Now, in the UK, for those of you that don't live here, we only have one venomous snake, and you've got more chance of being bitten by this snake than you have, winning the lottery 3 times in a row, being struck by lightning on the same day. This thing is so shy and so rare, most people never see one. So the fear of snakes is kind of illogical in the UK. If you're in South Africa or Australia, I get it. But in the UK, bizarre. Anyway, so we did this thing, got a great result, but I wasn't convinced. Fast forward to the next day. This lady and her family often go for a walk in some local woods, and hubby's got his phone out and he's videoing it all. The kids are doing what kids do. And you can hear the hubby go, "Darling, you better take a detour, because look, there's this massive worm in your path." And she goes, no, it's okay. And she gets on her hands and knees, and very, very carefully, she scoops up this worm, this wriggly thing, carries it across to a patch of grass and lays it down on this grass really gently. Husband almost drops his phone, launches a stream of expletives. He can't believe what he's just seen, because worms she equated with snakes. And I'm going, bloody hell, Paul, you got a superpower. So I went back to the guy who trained me, found out who trained him, went to work with him, found out who trained him. And I went as far up the ladder as I could, bought every book, every course, every pamphlet, and I became a hypnotherapist. And I really, really enjoyed it, because I was helping people with everything from spider phobias through to drinking too much, to losing the whole gamut. But what I found very quickly was that I was only helping people with one tiny aspect of their lives, just a little tiny bit. But yet there was so much more that people needed help with. So I kind of morphed into becoming a coach. And I call myself a mindset coach, simply because coaching is about the mind. Unless you're a sports coach where you're teaching people to be healthier and fitter and run faster, everything is about the mind. So I call myself a mindset coach, because I couldn't think of a better phrase. I still use my hypnosis skills and hypnotherapy as part of the coaching, but I just love it. I just love helping people recognize this one simple little fact.
Mm,
The problem you think you have isn't the problem. Like people go, oh, I'm a procrastinator. I drink too much, or I'm a perfectionist, or I've got low self-esteem, or low this. No, that's the symptom. That's not your problem. That is
mm.
a symptom. And so where I come in is helping the client discover what the problem is and then getting rid of it. And I love it.
I love it. Wow, what a story, what a career path, what a journey. So, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now? And perhaps it might be nothing. Perhaps it might be you enjoyed it. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, you're over to you.
Um, in all honesty, Abigail, I don't do this exercise because I cannot go back and tell my younger self anything. It's
Mm,
just not physically possible. So I don't want to say waste my time. That's the wrong phrase, but I don't indulge in these exercises because what's happened has happened. My past is past. Yeah. And I can't change it, whether I would want to or whether I wouldn't want it to. There's nothing I can do about it. The one thing I would say is that I kind of project forward and kind of say, what would I say to myself looking back? Because I can affect that. I can change that. I can't
mm,
go back and tell my younger self something because I can't change that. But what I
yeah,
can do is, okay, Paul, 10 years from now, what would you want to be happening right now looking back?
yeah. I
And
love
that's what
that.
I'm doing. And
I
that and
love
that's what
that.
I do. So I want to be having fun. I want to be enjoying myself. I want to be doing something that I really like doing. I want to be helping people. And there are still things I want to do, and I'm kind of moving towards those. So what I do is I kind of project forward and go, okay, Paul, what would the 10-year older Paul be wanting to say to me right now? And
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see things.
that's a really, really good exercise. So, where you are right now, what do you need to do in order to get to this 10-year future self? So, what changes can you affect right now?
Yeah, but in kind of reverse, I get the
Yeah,
10-year-old person to the 10-year older person to be going, oh, Paul, I really thank you for, I mean, look where we are now. I mean,
yeah,
we're fit, we're healthy. So in 10 years from now, I'll be 71. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
Paul, I just love how you've treated your body. I love the fact that at 71, I'm still fit, I'm still vigorous, I'm still doing stuff, I'm still working. Because working with a small W, because what I do now, I do it because I enjoy doing it, not
yeah.
because I have to do it.
So
So 10
let's
years, sorry, go on.
so let's sort of talk about like what you're focused on right now, and like where we can find out more about you and how we can get involved. Like, what's your next 10-year personal mission?
Okay, what am I focused on right now is kind of the same thing I've been focused on for the last few years is personal growth, having fun, and helping people because I have fun when I'm helping people. That's kind of my raison d'etre, the reason I'm here still. I firmly believe that the reason I'm still here is that I get such a buzz out of helping people, particularly when I see the changes that I can help people affect. Because I don't change people. This is one of the biggest mistakes that coaches and therapists make. We don't make
Mm,
the change. We help the clients affect their own changes. I help clients see through their own bullshit and figure out that that is actually bullshit. I don't know why I'm saying that because it's bullshit, Paul. This is what I want to be doing. This is what I'm going to be
mm,
doing, and that's what gets me out of bed every morning. Um, Getting fitter, getting healthier. I'd love to be in kind of some kind of relationship, so that's something I'm working on. I want to move because although I love my flat where it is, I don't have a garden, and I love gardens. So
mm,
one of my things I'm working on is what do I need to do to be able to move from where I am to a place that has a garden, and
mm,
there's lots and lots of things like that. I'm not looking to be world famous. I'm not looking to become a 9-figure entrepreneur. No, that's not me. I'm happy where I am financially, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay, a little bit more is always good. Don't get me wrong, but it's about becoming the best person. And this sounds like such a cliche, but I really mean it. It's about becoming the best person that I can be with all my foibles, all my strengths, all my weaknesses, recognizing that and doing the best I can with the resources that I've got. Because when it comes down to it, That's all any of us can do. But most people don't recognize that. Most
Amazing.
people are kind of falling into this societal trap of the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. I've got to be doing this. I've got to have one of those. I've got to have one of these. No, it's bollocks. You
Yeah.
don't need anything. Yes, you need clothing. Yes, you need a roof over your head. And yes, you need food. But all the rest
Yeah.
of it is bollocks. You
Yeah.
don't need
And
a
that,
flash car. I can give a Nissan Micra will get you from point A to point B as well as a Rolls Royce will. Okay, a
yeah.
Rolls Royce is more comfortable, more luxurious, but a Nissan Micra will do the same job. A palace, yeah, you could live in a palace, but a one-bedroom flat puts a roof over your head. So society, or we believe society, has put all these things in front of us that we must have. Once you recognize that, yeah, if you really, really want a palace, go for it. Do what you need to do to go for it. But you don't have to have it. And this is a big thing I think a lot of people are missing is you don't have to have the job with the job title. I am the executive vice ABC123 VIP CEO. Maybe let's be honest here. Before we kind of started recording, you were doing my bio and you were going to say kind of CEO. And what did I say? I'm not a CEO. Yeah, you can call me the founder, you can call me the creator, but I'm not a chief executive officer. And it makes me smile so much when I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see people that run a one-person business and they call themselves a CEO.
But perhaps you are the CEO, Paul. Perhaps you're the chief excitement officer.
Oh, I'm an exciting person, absolutely, yeah. But when it's CEO when you change the definition in that respect,
Yeah.
yes, definitely,
Yeah.
100%.
So take that reframe. So
Take
I
it,
can't
bought it.
believe we've come to the end of our conversation here today. Final question. Where can people find out more about you, connect with you, perhaps listen to your podcast?
Okay, Paul Wilson Coaching or some derivative of that. That's where you find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, where else? Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok,
Everywhere.
YouTube.
All
Yeah,
the things.
most places.
Amazing. And the podcast again is called?
A Happy Head podcast.
And this is available on all the podcasting
Oh
platforms?
God, yeah. Listen, you can even find me on Spotify, and they didn't pay me $200 million to be there neither.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I love it. Paul, thank you so much for being today's guest, for sharing your transformational story, proof of life after adversity and pivot, pivot, pivot. So let us know in the comments what your top takeaways have been from today's interview. And we will see you back here again next week. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and